Let me make sure it's working.
I have mine up so I can let you know what I'm seeing. It says waiting.
Okay, 1 second. Let me try that again. I got like hello windows open right now, so excuse me.
Yeah, we're there. We're on there.
Is it on? I don't see
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Hold on 1 second.
I don't see it either. Oh,
I see all of
yeah,
us.
there we are. I see it now.
Okay, we're live.
We live.
All right, we're live. Hello, everyone who is tuning in. My name is Melanie Alvena. I'm the artistic director at the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center. Our mission is to promote and present art that is reflective of the unique experiences of Asians and Pacific Islanders living right here in the United States. I'm so happy to be co-presenting Dame Drummer's event, the Black Daddy's Experience. We had a show last night at Yoshi's in Oakland. It was lit. It felt like I was just telling Dame, it was a Monday, but it felt like a Friday night. The show was sold out. It was packed. The vibes were so good. The energy was lit. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever experienced. So congrats, Dame, on such a wonderful show last night. Beautiful show last night. And for those of you here who didn't get to see that, it is on Dame's website if you want to catch it and watch it. It won't be like being there in person, but you'll get a little bit of a sense of what we experienced last night. But right now we're going to be doing a post-show discussion this evening. So thank you everyone who's joining us here online. But before we get started, I just want to take a moment to honor the fact that we are currently situated, at least where APICC is, on the ancestral land of the unceded territory of Yalamu, land of the Ohlone Ramaytush people. We want to name and honor the stolen indigenous lands we reside on, work on, create art on, and recognize the agency of the Native people to continue to steward the histories and futures of these places. If you'd like to do more than listen to this land acknowledgement, please consider contributing to the Shuni land tax or the Unikin land tax for anyone who lives here in the San Francisco Bay Area. If you are tuning in online from out of these areas, let us know in the chat which indigenous communities and areas you're located on, and help us find other ways to contribute in the movement to return land back to indigenous people. So this event is part of Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center's 26th annual United States of Asian America Festival, Reimagining Horizons, where we present over 20 programs reflecting the artistic accomplishments and cultural diversity of San Francisco's AAPI communities. The festival showcases artists representing a diverse range of ethnic and cultural groups and aims to heighten the visibility of AAPI artists working in all disciplines: theater, music, dance, film, literature, visual arts, and more. Our goal is to nurture and empower these groups to be self-sufficient while providing the support they need to grow. The festival and this event tonight would not be possible without some of our funders: San Francisco Grants for the Arts, San Francisco Arts Commission, San Francisco Office of Economic and Workforce Development, California Arts Council, and last but not least, Zellerbach Family Foundation. So thank you, funders. And thank you to my APICC staff who are present. We have our festival intern, Angelo Pomintuan, here tonight. He's helping me run this online event. And if you enjoyed tonight's program, please email your city supervisors and urge them to continue supporting and funding AAPI art and artists. So yes, we have a panel of BIPOC fathers here tonight in solidarity to talk about their experiences with as fathers and fatherhood as related to Dame's film, Black Daddy, the movie. And so now I'll just turn it over to Dame to start the discussion. So thank you all for being here.
All right. Thank you, Melanie. And thank you, Angelo, for being here. Angelo is a father of one and soon to be a father again. I am a father of two, and I want to introduce some of my fellow brothers on the panel. Michael Ray is a father of
three.
one. Oh, three. Uh-oh.
Three.
My bad. Three. We're going to get into that. Mike Blankenship, father of one. Kariga Bailey, father of two. And my friend Kurt Kaikahiwi he's like, I got to introduce him like an NBA player. All right. And now, 6-time all-girl father of the year. This man has 6 girls and is expecting number 7, which we don't know what it is yet, but I told him it's gonna be his boy, so we got to check back in with him and see where it lands. But that is Kurt, and we are standing in solidarity with our APICC brothers because we just want to, talk to see how we stand in solidarity, what similarities we have, what differences we have. So before we begin, I have some icebreaker kind of questions, right? The first one, and anybody can chime in, right? At any point, just when you feel led. Name something that you like about the others' cultures who's represented in here. Something that you like.
As it relates to my API family, I'm also an islander, right? By way of Jamaica. So I recognize that we have these strong familial bonds across all that water, across all those different islands. Our families love in a very similar way. We make room for more than just our family in a very similar way. That's what I've experienced thus far.
Anybody else? Somebody else chime in. Something that you like.
I was going to share the same sentiment, actually, like that we have a deep respect for our elders, and we carry our legacy. We're very proud of our legacies.
Got you.
I'd like to add on that familiar point. On a music level, I work with a lot of close friends first and foremost, but in the API community, on a music level, there's a very just similar bond and connection on genres and stylistically. And me and Mike Ray play together a lot, and we have a lot of friends within just various different cultures that relate on that same wavelength.
I'm gonna chime in and just say to my Filipino brothers and sisters, I don't know what I would do without adobo and lumpia. I don't know how I would make it this far. You know what I'm saying? Because once I had that, it changed my life, and I was like, yep. And so you can definitely find me at Lucky 57. On Fruitvale in Oakland, grabbing some of that. My children love it, and the fire wings. Yep. So I had to break it down on the culturally on the food level. I definitely respect, the old school mamas cooking in the Filipino culture.
I think across all of our cultures, we believe in universal principles of reciprocity, and it's integral to our kinship systems. And we value the way that we treat one another, and that your wealth and what you're offering, your ability to give, is seen as wealth, right? It's seen as strength. And I think that that's, a piece that we all connect to and around. And we have maturated in we're nurtured in our cultural ways to embrace that. And I see and feel that.
Yes, sir, Kurt. We got Branch now too, also representing the Hawaiian Islands, but parents are Samoan. He's just joined us, so we want to also just give acknowledgement to our brother Branch, someone else who is a strong brother in our community, and a father of 3 twin boys and a daughter. So we love that family and we adore them, and we broke bread on many occasions. But yeah, brothers, I also, I think that bringing it back to Mike Blankenship, and when he talked about, music, so, a few of us are artists in here, I think that musically for me, and then I'm going back to the Philippines again, I think that where I'm from in Cleveland, Ohio, I don't think there's not a huge Filipino community at all, right? So when I moved to California is when I really began to be exposed to the community. And I think the thing that blew my mind, I don't know if Mike Blankenship was playing on this gig or not, but as a drummer, I got asked to play with my good buddy Vince Riera, who's Filipino, and he said, "Man, I need you to play this wedding with me." I said, "Okay, cool, cool, cool." It was a Filipino wedding. I didn't know what to expect, but when I got there, he said, "Yeah, here's the set list," and I'm talking about it was all old school R&B, soul, new R&B, rap, hip hop, and I'm watching these grandmothers and these moms and grandpas just like jam out, and I was like, wow. I'm like, okay, I can't believe this, like just blowing my mind. So that right there, I was like, and I said to Vince, I said, oh, we cousins like that, you know? And it just like struck that chord for me. So, um, you know, I think that all the answers are they speak definite truth to how we are similar and what we value, but those are some of the ones that just kind of like really like hit home and break down a lot of barriers to where we can actually start, engaging in conversations where it's like, hey man, we got a lot in common, so Branch, is there anything that you want to add to this? The prompting question was, name something that that you like about the other culture. And then the second part was, name some way you feel we are the same. So we kind of been answering both of those questions if you want to chime in on that.
Yeah, thanks for the time, guys. One thing I like is that we see each other, we recognize each other. Walking around on the street. So before I moved to Oakland, we live in Los Gatos, and Los Gatos is very white, affluent, and out there we felt like out of place. So we didn't see like our people. All of our cultures are filled with culture, but in that white community, there was no like real culture, very Americanized. So when we would see someone of color, we would smile, we'd look at each other, and we'd just give a nod or even a wave sometimes. And my kids would always ask me, "Oh, Daddy, do you know them?" I'm like, "No." It's like, "Oh, why did you say hi to them?" It's like, because we just see each other.
Mhm.
We recognize each other, right? And Daddy, my daughter, she's really into the Polynesian culture. And then, Daddy, oh, that guy's smiling at you. I'd look over. It's like, oh, it's like, then we'll give a head nod. And then she'd say, oh, you know him? I was like, no. It's like, is he Samoan? No. It's like, then what is he? I said, he's Filipino. It's like, oh, how do you know? It's like, because we know. It's like, we're all brothers, we're all cousins, we all know each other. It's like this past Saturday, we had a graduation. And so this black guy, right? Black guy walks up to me. He's like, oh, and he starts asking all these questions about Polynesians and whatnot. And then he was like, oh, yeah, I'm half black, half Tongan. I was like, oh, what's up, Toko? It's like, we're our brothers. We recognize each other and we see each other walk around on the streets. And we always, when we see each other, we always make sure we like just let each other know that I see you, and that's something that's really beautiful. It's nice to be recognized by other people other than your culture. It's funny. I went to Ghana on a summer vacation. I went out there to volunteer, and us people of color, right? In here, we would be lumped in the group of being black or people of color, right? When I went to Ghana, I was white. So in Africa, I was a white man.
You got to break that down.
We were out by the river tanning, and my African brother goes, "Oh, you're so cute. You're trying to be brown." My wife and I were looking at each other. We're like, "What, bro? I'm brown. What are you talking about?" It's like, "No, you're not brown. It's like you're white."
Wow.
But it's like we all know. There's a musician, Fiji, and one of his songs he talks about we're going back home. We're going back home to Africa. So we pay homage to each other, and we know where we're from. And so I love that we always come back to our roots.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, so the colorism is real in Africa. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a sad thing, man, because we know that it's the culture. I mean, it run deep. You know, I mean, yeah, it's complexion. What Kendrick Lamar said is, what is it? It's all the same, right? When it gets down to the blood and what we believe in and where we come from, man. Um, Anybody else want to chime in on that? I think last night a couple of people were there. Kariga was there. Kurt was there. And Mel, you were there. Um, when it comes to solidarity, right? I put out a film called Black Daddy the Movie for the viewers who are watching, but it supersedes Black Dads. You know what I'm saying? It's really a movie. It's about fatherhood. I mean, we specifically dealing with Black fathers because we have to. The Black community has this this I would say it's a false narrative that's being told to the world. And when it comes to Black men, a lot of people often think that when you look at crime or when you look at all these things, it's because, well, there's crime because there are no Black fathers, or there's this stigma that's going around. And I made this film to kind of debunk that, because in this system, these systems, there's going to be crime, and there's going to be, you know, um, disparaged, and it's going to be poor people. There's going to be all kind of stuff, but it has nothing to do with, you know, Black fathers not being there. This is what the system created. So I created this film to show how we stand together in solidarity, but it ends up becoming this thing where if you are a man, period, and you have children, you can pull something from this film, because one thing's for sure and two things for certain: we're going to experience life on the same level at some point. You know, it may not be on a socio-economical point, but it can definitely be in a point of grieving, which is something that we all experience, which is something that Kariga really brings forth to the film that helps out a lot of people. No matter what, I saw a white guy crying last night, you know what I mean, because Kariga's story touched him. So what we're doing is actually bringing forth the solidarity in all fathers, and that's what we want to, kind of like lift up here today. It's like, how can we lift up each other, and how can we support where there is need from the different culture groups? So can anybody speak to that?
I'll use Mike as a great example. I have 3 children. I have a 17 going on 18 in August, and I have a 19-year-old. And I also have a 1.5-year-old. But as long as I've known Mike, I've known Jameson. And of course, I look up to Mike tremendously as a musician. I draw major inspiration from him and his playing. But to watch him father his child and inspire his child, and then see his child inspired and just really just be him, I think as artists, as people, as men, one thing that we strive to be is ourselves and find our voice and be uniquely us. And I totally see that in Jameson. And it's something that I see in Mike too, and the way and how he speaks to myself, to our friends, and to his child. It's a direct reflection of, of that lineage. And I love that.
Wow, that was first of all, thank you for those kind words, Mike. Yeah, I think what I saw, to your point, and what I saw last night, I watched on the live stream, and I have to say, it really sucked that I couldn't be there. I really wanted to, it didn't have anything to do with playing. I wanted to be there in support of my brother and his beautiful project and concert. But watching the live stream was incredible. And I was telling Dame earlier today, if you get a chance to watch it, the magic is there. It comes through the screen. I was in Boulder, Colorado, watching like I was front row or on stage with Dame. And I think really the takeaway for me, along the lines of what Mike Ray is saying, is that, and something that's shown in the film, I'm a product of a father who loved me dearly. And I'm sure some of us have that like everyday experience and some of us don't, but I had the everyday experience. I had a father that could have left for career aspirations, and he didn't. And he gave me everything I could possibly need to feel loved, supported, and live out my life in a way that I felt was successful. And so as a father of myself, I try to do that with my own child as best I can. I'm on the road about 3-4 months of the year, which is about 10 times the amount more than my father was out of town for work. And so I really try to make the most of the time when I'm there. And one of the things that was beautiful about the concert is that we just show each other. We show each other what it looks like. That's how we support each other. I saw Kariga bring his daughter out, knowing his story and having him bring his child on stage. That's what it's about. It ain't about how dope of an MC someone is or how killer they are, or keys on drums. It's just like, what is your priority as a person? And for us as men, as fathers, I got teary-eyed when Dame cut to a scene of his son on the same stage that he's on. Like that's how we support each other. We show each other. Some of us aren't in the greatest situations. We may not be able to see our kids as often as we like, but we just try to be there and supportive to those fathers that are dealing with that, and just let them know that that they have support and that they're valued. They're valued, whether you have your kid every day, every hour of their life, or you only get to see them a couple times a month, or what are the circumstances. You bringing that life into this world, they need you, and you're valuable. And so I think this film is just a great representation of show and tell, show and prove. That's how we can support each other.
Mike, I think it's dope to hear your perspective watching the stream, but being up close to the stories in that way. And I also just want to make room for what it's meant for me to feel supported and safe enough in all the iterations of fatherhood that I've experienced, right? And it's unique for me watching any part of the films or any film that captures me in that moment. It's a unique experience. What I'm also able to do, it gives me a beautiful reminder even in like my grief, there's so much love there, and it doesn't only belong to me. Like I don't get shortchanged on the love by showing it or extending it to somebody else. Just as Kurt said earlier, we look at giving as a wealth. So when I have taken those types of experiences, one of the most beautiful things that could have happened was for me to have documented those raw emotions then, and to be part of a moving story, because the moving story was the only way I could show up with that clip, with that song, with Kamali in my arm. And when the story is moving like that, it gives us opportunities to see each other deeper. It gives us opportunities to understand how our stories impact one another, how some of what we have identified as some of our greatest triumphs and some of our greatest challenges are still ministering to people outside of ourselves. So I thought about what it meant to be in that room that night and for me to see Kurt. Kurt and I spent a lot of time together for a lot of years. A lot of time together. We worked together at Rose's, and his classroom and my office was also in proximity. So we spent time together by proximity and by choice. And when my daughter was born in 2019, I don't think I saw him as off. I can count on hand how many times I saw him. The love was never distant, but we didn't have each other's proximity. His island and my island, looking at each other eye to eye and exchanging a heartfelt hug, is one of the most powerful medicines I've had a chance to receive. So fatherhood, grief, becoming, growing, all of it is this work. It's our work. It is not one culture's work. It's literally our work as fathers. To investigate all of these things that we perceive as losses and or triumphs and or trials. Having room to investigate it is the power, is the medicine. Having a space virtually to come in here and speak about the practice of fathering, that's the medicine, right? Whether you a 6-time all-star father, 2-time, 1-time, it remains the same. You will get to do, your learning will be maximized when you get to do it in community with other fathers. You'll learn and you'll fill in gaps and you'll learn how to be more present, or you'll learn a new resource. And that happens when your child is 1 or 18. It never stops. So I'm just grateful to be in this community tonight and forevermore. I told Dame though, real quick, one of the best decisions I ever could have made was to say yes to writing for that record. He asked me to write in that record at a place where I barely had my voice. I barely had the drive to want to storytell around a pain like that. But in that film, we were filming that weeks before Kamali was born. That's why I was in the baby garage. That's why I had the courage to touch all the things that I no longer had value for. So, Dame, big ups to you, but I say this to anybody on any journey. Showing up for yourself as best as you can, or showing up for your feelings and your emotions, will not just benefit you in that season, but it will serve as a longitudinal reflection for you to grow, for you to remember how far you've come. So I just encourage all of us as men to process our emotions real time, because they'll teach us even later.
That's good, man. That's good. I do want to segue into Kurt, because you mentioned it. I have a couple of questions for Kurt, man, because you mentioned, just that number, 6 girls, right? Six
5.
children.
We got 5 baby girls, but one's coming. We don't know.
One, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
What okay, so you could be looked at by some as an expert because you got all these children, right? But what are you still learning? You know what I'm saying? From not just your experience as a father with your children, but maybe from a father like some like a Mike Blankenship, like someone who has one child. What are you still learning?
Mhm. That's a beautiful question. Fathering is a process, and it is an endless cycle. It's not an outcome. And what's beautiful about the film, what it elicited, was the deep, courageous vulnerability of fatherhood and what it means to be a father. It means to resource yourself through humility, through vulnerability, right? It really means to do those things, right? And to act in that particular way. And what I also got from the film too, and I have to name this as a nuance, is that yes, it's Black fatherhood and Black fathering, we have to critically interpret that, because it's like, what does it mean when we see these Black brothers who are talking about their pain and sorrow, right, and displaying these vulnerabilities in those intersections, right? And I always think about that when with all of my brothers, and we have fathering conversations, I'm always very taken aback by the amount of vulnerability that my Black brothers share, because those are offerings. We've seen that in the film. Who is anybody for someone else to sit in their own vulnerability and pain for other people's learning and knowing, right? And so there's, again, going back, we're all weaving and threading, Brother Branch, seeing one another, right? Connecting to our ways of knowing and our senses of being. But I just wanted to nuance that a bit, because I often think that, folks in our respective communities don't acknowledge that, right? We don't interrogate those intersections of, it is a difference of being a Black father in the United States and being subjected in a different way than my body. There are nuances there. We got to interrogate that. And so when you ask, what do you know? I know that fathering is teaching me more humility, teaching me to be more patient, right? And those are the ultimate gifts of children, because we know that when we're able to exercise that, we're able to be more present for our children. And that is the greatest gift that they're asking from us, because that means that we understand that they are sacred and the relationships that we hold with them are sacred. And when we can authentically give that to our children and we have that reciprocity back, we're good. It's unconditional love. And when a human being receives unconditional love from a man over time, they're able to overcome anything, because they have received the love of, they know that they are whole, right? And that's so part of the nuance and complication that I seen in the film. It was like, damn, these brothers is talking about their fathers who they were not connected to, but praying and hoping in their goodness. Like, whoa, they don't owe that to anybody. And we have our own pain with our own fathers as well, and grandfathers and great-grand, and they got it with their daddies too. So I know I'm taking up a lot of time, so I'm gonna give it back. But yeah, that's what I'm learning.
Time
That was
was not the metric. Time was not the metric that you were taking up, bro. It was an expansive offering, teaching and reframing and naming. So time was no token in this, Kurt. So good to hear your voice, bro, and learn your wisdom. Love you, man.
Yeah, love you too. All good.
You struck a chord with Kariga, man, because one thing I know about my brother Kariga, when that lighter come out, you struck a chord with him, man. Yes, Kariga, vulnerability is an offering. You know what I'm saying? And Kurt, you said that, man. I think that one of the things that I wanted to create, and I said this in the narration of the film, is to create a safe space. I mean, some people don't agree with that term, safe space, but I think it's appropriate, because we don't, vulnerability, you have to feel some kind of security, right? You have to feel safe enough to demonstrate your vulnerability, right? So I wanted to create that space. Fortunately, like when I asked Kariga was like, I knew it'd be a no-brainer to get him in that house, right? When we went to Pacifica, we rented a house in the film, and it was kind of like a retreat. But I have never done that with this group of men, and there were a couple of brothers in there that was like, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Because I said we're gonna be talking, man. We're gonna light a fire pit, and who knows what's gonna come out of us, you know? But I think that the courage that it took to display that vulnerability was actually the whole plan for the healing. And as we go from room to room and from panel to panel, if we get more familiar with what that feels like and the fact that it's okay, you know what I'm saying? And the fact that we desperately need to release that, then um, I've heard my brother Kariga say this, and this is something that has become my mantra because of my stature. I'm 6'8", and I realized through learning from my brother Kariga and talking to him that my strength is not in this 6'8", 255-pound body. It's in my humility. It's in my vulnerability. That's where my strength is. It's my strength to get out there and tell my story. The strength to let people know that life had become so hard for me that I wanted to check out, take my life. You know what I'm saying? That's where the strength is, because I'm definitely going to speak to at least one other person every time we do this that has that same feeling, that same path. So there you go again, Kariga, with the vulnerability as an offering. You know what I mean? So I think that that's important for all of us to tap into, in our by and bys. So thank you. Anybody else want to chime in?
I just wanted to say, for the folks that were in the room last night at Yoshi's, we're talking about vulnerability here. We're talking about being seen. Dame, for me, one of the moments last night that really struck me and relates to, like, you creating the safe space for these fathers to talk about their feelings, is there was that time on stage you were just thanking everybody, thanking the fathers for being fathers, also thanking the mothers, but like, you opened up that space and you were acknowledging people, for their role as fathers and as parents. And I feel like in that moment too, it was really moving, because people were being seen. You were acknowledging them for the work that they were doing, even though you were saying, you might not hear thank you from your partner, you might not hear thank you from your son or your daughter or your child, but you up there in that moment were thanking those people and acknowledging those people. And I think there was healing, there was medicine there too last night. And that was for me, one of the most moving parts of your show.
I appreciate that, and I really can't take credit for it, because one of the things that I do in my show is I'm unapologetic in faith, and I always give reverence to my God, you know what I'm saying, and that was, until you just said that, Mel, just seriously, I was like, oh, I said that because it's literally one of those moments where I'm kind of like, I'm not there in that moment. You know what I'm saying? I'm just this vessel standing there, and there's these messages pouring out of me. And I felt like, I guess that was just the right time, because I know I always try to do things that I would want. That's why I had the ceremony for my son. I wish someone would have taken me at the age of 13. And this is, I also want to segue into this for the brothers. And then we want to make sure that we want to leave time if there are any questions. But I do things because I want them done for me. So I felt like there was a need to acknowledge, the fathers, because they may never hear it. And and a lot of time could go by. And it's like, I know the kind of effort that we give, and we don't need a pat on the back, but it's nice sometimes, So to segue into things that I wanted, I would like to ask my brothers in the APICC community, what are some of the things that we're doing for our young men as as a rites of passage, as they're coming into their manhood? Because from the time that they're children, they're men in training. So I had never experienced this. I know in the Jewish community they have bar mitzvahs, and I think that there have been rites of passages in other cultures, but something just came upon me, and I'm like, hey, my son's turning 13. I needed to make sense for him. I needed to be special. And we did a ceremony. Kariga was present, and if you've seen the film, I just had some brothers write notes to him. So what are the things that we're doing for our next generation to kind of prepare them? And I think this might be a good question for you, Branch, because you got some young warriors on your hands, man, probably in the van with you. You want to speak to that?
So say that last part again, please, Dame.
So yeah, I just like to know, what are some of the things that we can do to help our generation, the next generation, kind of like come into their manhood, and also taking some of these tools that we're talking about with them, like being vulnerable and being in spaces where you can trust your brother and depend on your brother.
Gotcha. Well, I'm a very untraditional guy. Um, very untraditional in like a lot of my ways. They say, man, I'm supposed to cry or show emotions, but I'm the biggest crybaby I know. I'm one of those who wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I let them know how I feel. I let my boys know, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel emotions, but be in those emotions and accept it. Be one with those emotions and don't be stuck with it. Because a lot of times for men, a lot of men suffer in silence. We really don't have an outlet to be vulnerable. Because that's a lot of what I'm hearing. We don't about vulnerability, and we don't talk much. Dame not too long ago was going through something, and I didn't really have to say anything to him. He didn't have to say anything to me. I just saw him, saw each other. Every time we see each other, there's an embrace. A feeling of like, I'm there. I'm there if I need you. So my hugs, my time spent with my boy, that I guess you can say that's my rite of passage for them. But there have been times where I spent uh, uh, time with other people's children, like Dame, like Demi. Not too long ago when she was in kindergarten, I was Uncle Branch. She bragged to all her friends, "Oh, that's my uncle. That's my uncle." Like, how can that Samoan guy be your uncle? I say, "Oh, Uncle Branch, are you my uncle?" Yup. It's like, see, I told you. Um, Same thing with Kurt's kids. When I first met them at Roses, Layla was like, "Uncle Branch, Uncle Branch, Uncle Branch." Just the recognition of being, uh, same cultures, right? Just seeing each other, being around each other, just being under the wing of each other, and telling my boys that, I talked to Dame a little bit about this, like wanting to do like a boys camp, where we would take boys and just, a lot of it. So Dame, you had mentioned something earlier about problems. Some of the problems that we're having is not because of, I'm paraphrasing, not because of fatherless boys, but just because of the system. But in my experience, even in the Polynesian culture, some of the most problematic boys were the ones where the fathers had passed or the fathers had left, fathers are not gone. And seeing other men in the community step in to be like surrogate fathers. And, when we are not in, um, when our children not in our, when our children are not in our space, but in the space of our brothers, we kind of take on that role of becoming fathers, uncles, where we guide them. And that's a lot of what I realized, that I'm not my children's father. That's just the title. This is just a earthly experience. You know, with these earthly bodies, but we are, spirits, we're energies. And I realized that I'm just a guide. So whenever there are children of color in my presence, I try to be a bigger self, to be a guide. And I realized that steward, in my community, to make sure that these children, our children, act right. So that's my main thing, is making sure is that they're acting right. Um, because when one of us gets judged, we all get judged. And I want to make sure that we're all looking out for each other in that sense. So I guess for me, the rite of passage would be just looking out for each other, making sure that we're taking care of each other, because we're all one. I don't know. That was kind of long. Probably doesn't answer your question, but
No, that's all. Again, it's all good. Kariga already gave everybody the pass, so it's like everybody, take your time and get it out. I do want to acknowledge some people in the live chat on the YouTube page. A good brother and a mutual brother of mine and Kariga, brother Omari Maynard. He said, open acknowledgement is so important. We got to openly and intentionally honor each other. And I think that goes back to what you said earlier, Branch, and you know, and Brother Kurt, and us seeing each other and not being afraid to, see each other. I know personally, and this may be some cultural difference right here, between APICC community and BIPOC or Black community, but oftentimes when Black men see each other in passing, it's 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 not always a formal or embrace situation, and oftentimes it's a look over your shoulder kind of thing. And I wish that for the Black community, I wish that is something that could change for us, because I never want to look over my shoulder at a brother who has a more similar life than me, than anyone else. You know what I'm saying? Someone who I can identify with. I don't ever want to look over my shoulder and be afraid or worry if I'm have to, square up or protect myself or anything like that. I only want to see men in passing and embrace them. Hey, brother, how you doing? You know what I mean? And so I think that's important that brother Omari brought that up, that we really embrace openly acknowledging one another.
yeah,
Anybody?
there was a moment at when we first went to Roses, and if you guys know me, I'm pretty close to my boys, and my boys are pretty close to me. My family came home from or came to visit for my daughter's graduation from out of town, from Utah and Hawaii, and they all agree that it's like, man, your boys are so lucky to have you. I'm like, nah, I'm lucky to have my boys. They said, you can tell that your boys are really, really close to you. And I've tried to cultivate that with them. But I remember a moment when we were at Roses, and my son was going through something, and he didn't really want to talk to me, but Kariga was there. And so Tua was going through something, and I was asking Tua what was happening, and then he didn't want to talk to me, but he was open to talk to Kariga. And that's what I mean by seeing our brothers and knowing that our children are in the care of um, the love that we have for our children, and the love that we have for each other. So like Dame, like you're saying, seeing other men, sometimes it's not the same, where we're not looking at each other in recognition, but rather looking at each other, looking over our shoulders. So once we have these relationships where, like, I see you, I'm good. I'm okay with my kids being with you. I see Kariga, same thing. I'm good with my kids being in his love and his aura and this energy, space of love. The same thing with Uncle Kurt, same thing. And the more that our children see us fathers be in the space of each other, the more we can cultivate that culture and that community, society of where we can be vulnerable with each other.
I was gonna add to that. I mean, pretty much the same thing, but I think the rite of passage especially at least if we're speaking of boys, because I know you had the ceremony for your son, Dame, when he turned 13. It's love, in my opinion, it's love. I think I always hear the kind of cliche comment of like, showing your daughter love so that she knows what it looks like when she gets older, right? But I think with boys, especially a lot of times with Black boys, we you know, I'm not gonna say it's a historical thing, but it's easy to be like, hey, you need to be this world is will eat you up if you let it. So you got to be kind of like a little bit harder around the edges to kind of get through it. But sometimes this world will eat you up if you don't have love, if you don't have love for self, if you don't know what love should really feel like. And I think a rite of passage, oftentimes, like for my son, one of the biggest joys I have, he's 13. So, it's like everything is happening to him at the same time. Everything. It's just like sensory overload. But there's these moments where we're walking side by side, and he'll reach down and just grab my hand like he did when he was like 4. And it's like, that's right, like that's love. It's not even a physical embrace or anything. It's just the fact that there's trust, there's adoration, and this is a spiritual connection that with the other word that's been themed a lot, vulnerability, that it's like, yeah, hold my hand, like, yeah, give me a kiss on the cheek, yeah, like I love you, and you love me. And as you venture out into this world and you meet people that you create this like divine kind of connection with, love on them too. I mean, that's really how we're coded to be. But we have, we've gone through a lot of things as a people that have, altered that for some obvious reasons. But we need to make sure that our boys have, and girls too, but just being a parent of a single kid who happens to be a boy, I want him to feel like that universal love is for him too, regardless of what's on the news, regardless of what statistics may say. All the love in the world is bestowed upon him too. And he's a vessel of love as well to share with other people. So I think that's really important, that we when you get to that age, that they never lose sight of that. It's not innocence, it's the essence of being human. It's the love.
Absolutely. And that is the common thread amongst us all. Whenever we see each other, we definitely see and feel that love for one another, and we know that our children are being cultivated in love. So, brothers, keep up the great work. I see you, and we see each other, and want to just shout out to some people who I saw pop up in the chat. AM1 Creates, who was also at the show last night, and Sammy Schiff, we see you, and Amanda Renteria, we see you too. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. It is now 7 o'clock. If there are any more questions, maybe in the chat, or anything, anyone wants to have a final word for our brothers on the panel.
I just want to shout out Omari, if he's still around, just to heal up that brother. That's a deep bond of love. And it's just dope to see that fathers are connecting with fathers across distance, across virtual bounds. Big love.
New York. Well, Mel, we'll let you close it out. We really appreciate it. I also just want to shout out, APICC again. You all have been, I think you guys have been so supportive, despite the obstacles, the festival, and you've just been so understanding. And I remember I just remember talking to you and having this big sigh of relief when you understood pivoting, you know what I mean, and things happening. And I'm just so thankful that you were able to witness um, what you supported us in.
Of course. And thank you so much for all of you here to opening up this space, talking about fatherhood with such vulnerability. I feel so like honored to just listen in and hear about your knowledge sharing and hear about your experiences. Dame, so thank you again for putting your project. We gave Dame a grant to help fund this project. So I am so honored to have it in our festival this year. It's so important to have, I think, intersectional and cross-cultural conversations like this, because like we were all saying, a lot of us have similar experiences, and this is just one of those examples, specifically talking about fatherhood, but there's many, many more. So yeah, I'm just so honored to have all of you here and just be part of our festival this year. And it's just been, yeah, I can't thank you enough, Dame, for doing this work and continuing to do this work. And hopefully, like, you're touching some other fathers out there who, like you said, aren't being acknowledged and might want some space, might want some community support, because I think that's what you're building here. That's what I'm feeling in our virtual space right now, is this community of fathers where y'all can come as you are and be your full selves, and then be that way for your children as well. So yeah, just wanted to end on that good note and with grace and thanks.
Absolutely. Just one real quick, acknowledging the chats, just real quick. I want to Omari is still in the room. Kariga, he said thank you for putting this together. This was dope, and love to see and learning from you all, and big love, fellas and lady. And it says iron sharpens iron, create. And then Amanda says, great session, keep up the deep work. So thank you everyone, and thank you again, APICC.
Yes. So for those of you who did not catch the show last night, please go watch the recording, experience it for yourself, and keep supporting Dame and his work. The Black Daddy the movie, I'm sure you'll have more screenings, but please, folks out there, please support it, because this is really important work.
So. Mike Ray, hope to link soon. Branch, I love you. Good to see you. Mike, take care, King. Love you, bro. Kurt is in here, and I don't think I know Angelo, but we soon link. And thank you so much, Melanie. Big love.
Thanks, y'all. All right.
Thank you so much.